Hello, I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and your job's just not worth what it used to be, right? It's not. I mean, I think everybody agrees, even the U.S. government, that we've got some inflation going on. U.S. government seems to think it's around 5%. The grocery store seems to think it's around 40%. And obviously, it's not. It's not 40%. I'm being facetious. This is not a conspiracy theory channel. But what I will say, and maybe this is going to venture into conspiracy theory. The Fed is being very careful to label this inflation event that we're experiencing as transitory, so temporary, right, in their eyes. And they're saying it over and over and over again. Oh, it's transitory. It's not going to last. Not going to last. Well, that would be strange. That'd be unusual, right? Generally, the U.S. dollar doesn't gain in buying power, it loses buying power every year. We always have some amount of inflation. Generally, it's planned. They know what it is. They account for it. Year to year, this happens. Every year, our dollar becomes a little less able to buy things, right? To the tune of like pennies at most. Here, in this event we're having now, it's potentially more significant, right? We had the single largest increase in Social Security we've ever seen as a nation, because they don't want the people who are surviving on Social Security to not be able to afford food anymore, right? Or maybe like housing. And that's scary. And, as you hear the reports from a variety of companies, all they're talking about as they give their profits calls, their quarterly earnings calls, inflation. We're going to have to raise prices. We're going to have to adjust. We have hedging strategies for inflation. That's all they talk about. And these are food companies, pharmaceutical companies, companies that make building materials, companies that make machines, right? These are companies that provide the foundational elements of our lives. And that means the foundational elements of our lives are about to get more expensive. And they're probably going to go up a lot more than 5% based on what the companies seem to be saying, what we're seeing. Or, I mean, it's anecdotal, but and this, this is silly because I'm not an economist, and this is not data. This is just a story. But normally I buy vitamins, once a quarter. This glow doesn't just happen, right? And normally it's about $20 a quarter. And I went in to go buy my vitamins last week, and they were $56. And I was like, oh, that can't be right. I'm going to go buy them somewhere else. I checked Amazon. I checked the people who make checked everywhere. No, they're just $56 now. Well, they didn't double in price plus then some because of inflation, but I bet it played a part, right? And that's going to happen. There's a lot of issues with the droughts going on in the U.S. and food is going to be very expensive in the coming years, at least the coming year. And the problem with that and the way that we bring it back to employment law is that if the Fed's wrong, if this is not a short-lived inflationary event, this is not transitory, as they say, well, you've got to have a conversation with your employer. Because if you're earning, we'll go with a nice round number. If you're earning six figures yesterday, well, let's say you're earning six figures in 2018. Well, in 2018, that six figures bought a certain amount. It had a certain set buying power. In 2021, that six figures seems like it buys significantly less than it bought in 2018. See where I'm going with this? Your work, if you don't get a raise, your work is now receiving less compensation in terms of buying power. And that's one of the reasons why they're saying over and over and over again, transitory, temporary, transitory. Don't worry about it. Short-term event, not a thing. Don't worry. Not a big difference. Yeah, because they don't particularly want people en masse to go to their employers and say, hey, my salary is not worth what it once was. It doesn't buy what it once did. I need more just to be equal to where I was 3 years ago. right? That's what we as employees need to do. That's what we as citizens need to do to keep the middle class from shrinking and keep the lower class from falling off into starvation, which is kind of a risk right now, given how things are going at the grocery store in terms of pricing. And so we're going to be having to have those conversations, right? We're going to have to go to our employer and say, hey, I know the federal government says a dollar today has the buying power of, $1.05 3 years ago. But employer, you and me, we both know that's nonsense. Because we both know when we go to the grocery store, prices are up more than 5%. Prices are up more than 5 cents on the dollar, right? They just are. You can look at it and they're just not anywhere near to what they used to be. So, employer, if you want me to stay here, I'm going to need at least as much buying power in my salary as I was making in 2018, right? And listen, I'm not calling this the end of the U.S. government. I'm not calling this the end of the U.S. dollar. To an extent, I think the Fed is right. I don't think the U.S. dollar is gone. I don't think it's shot, right? Like, there's a lot of people panicking. It's like, oh my God, what's happening? Lumber's 10 times the cost it used to be. The U.S. dollar, it's just not, they've printed 40% of all the U.S. currency in circulation in the past 18 months. Okay, that's all true. But I bet you there's a plan of some kind for that to work out. I'm often wrong. You don't have to rely on my bet. I just bet, right? I bet there's a plan for that to work out. I also bet that plan doesn't really take into account your salary or your wages, your hourly rate. And the only person who's going to worry about that, you. Maybe me. I think about it a little bit. But I'm here, you're there, and I may not know your name, right? So you're going to have to take care of number one, yourself. And that means you're going to have a conversation with your employer saying, hey, a dollar's not a dollar anymore. The buying power is less. I need more. Don't call it a raise. It's not a raise. It's a cost of living increase so I can have the same lifestyle that I once had back in 2018 on the same pay. I think you should get a raise too. You seem like a good employee. But that's not what this is. This is a cost of living adjustment, right? And you got to have that conversation pretty soon. Timing is going to be key because if you're paying these inflated prices too long, it's going to leave a mark in that bank account, right?